another training video brought to you by Spot Training, teaching you to do more anywhere. Today we're going to be going over the squat, which accompanies the workout squat and press. And we'll be breaking down some of the video and looking at my mechanics to see where I'm successful, and also looking at some of my failures to embrace them and see where I have opportunity for growth, which is always exciting. And the squat itself, it's a very popular motion. A lot of people are knocking them out, reps and reps and reps. But if you're doing it wrong, you might just be doing reps on your knees and reps on your back. Ideally, you want to get muscle recruitment from your quads and your hamstrings and your glutes, the glutes in particular. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss how you can get more out of your squat, more muscle recruitment, rather than just knocking out reps until you have six-pack abs, which is not really how it works. So let's go ahead and get started and break down some of these workouts. Alright, so I've got a video of me doing squats in motion, and I'm definitely talking alignment, 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 alignment. When I see a lot of squats, I see a lot of them in our toes, and I see a lot of them with weight bearing in strange areas. But what you're looking for in your alignment is a flat back, your butt coming behind your knees, and your knees staying behind your toes. Boom. So over here I've got a little bit, let me grab my drawing tool. I've got a little bit of extension out of the knee, which isn't so bad. What that's basically going to do is put a little bit of tension on the front end of my knee inside of that joint and cause a tad bit of impingement. But for the most part, you can see that my glute is coming back. So what happens when my glute goes back? Well, that muscle is retracting. And what happens when my glute comes forward? It's contracting. Okay, so if your glute's not traveling, if it's not really going behind your heels, then you're not really recruiting it. But lastly, I have a nice flat back going on here. That way I can make sure that there's no motion inside of the back, no retraction in the back, and no contraction in the back. Taking all the stress out of the back, out of the joint, and instead placing it into my glute. Here's a good forward-facing angle of me knocking out my squats. And this is something that I commonly see is the knees coming out, which is definitely ideal. What that's going to do is on the side of your glute, you have this muscle called the gluteus medius. And when you point that knee out like that, whoop, it's going to cause a nice contraction out of that gluteus medius. And when both knees are coming out, then that gluteus medius causes contractions to come together, creating force. Okay. That way they can counter against each other, working glute med against glute med. And when they work against each other, they create a new force, allowing you to squat more weight. So you definitely do want to turn that knee out. Now, something that I also see a lot accompanying it is a turnout of the toe. I'm pointing my toe straight ahead in order to prevent any sort of tension inside of there. Reason being is if you turn that toe out, you have a more likely lack of turn inside of the knee. When you turn the toe out, it's kind of just working on top of your range of motion and what kind of range of motion you have. If you are looking to open up your glute a little bit more and allow more glute recruitment, work on your deep squat with your toes pointed forward and your knees pointing out. When your toes pointing out, your knees more likely to point in, and when your knees pointing in, you're not working your glute. Instead, you're just putting stress on your knee and your femur, your bones, and forcing the motion through your skeletal advantage, through your mechanical advantage of your bones, not the mechanical advantage of your muscles. Alright, right here we are showing a deep squat. I'm going to pause it right here. I don't hold it for long. But this is a nice effort at maintaining a deep overhead squat. This is a tough one to do. When you create this little bit of extra extension out of your lat, it is going to pull into your spine and create a little bit of extra extension there. And because I'm squatting, my hips are also creating a lot of extension there. So what does that do? It pulls your spine, decompresses it. Your hips are literally pulling down as your shoulders are pulling up. I'm having a little bit of a struggle keeping my neck up because I do bear some tension inside of my body. But nonetheless, this is going to help create decompression and extension not only for this moment, but also in the long term. When you're knocking out a carry overhead, it's going to result in a less compressed spine. All right, now we're going to look at a side view of my deep squat, kind of look at how that's working out. And yeah, this is part of the reason why I'm not going straight for that overhead. Despite the overhead is pretty good, I'm more so trying to make sure that I'm getting as much work into this ankle as possible. So when I do the overhead, it tends to shift my weight forward because my arms tend to fall forward just a little bit, and then I end up putting more weight onto my toes, which just causes impingement in my ankle rather than really stretching that Achilles tendon out. But here, because my ankle's on the floor, I'm able to feel that extension out of the Achilles tendon and also maintain a nice flat back, nice alignment here, creating tension inside of this glute. And then, of course, because my knee is bent, I'm creating plenty of tension inside of my thigh. So, when you do your deep squat, you can change it up so that way you feel the tension in different places. You're certainly more than welcome to, emphasize different areas over the other. Just please, please, please make sure to induce muscular engagement. Don't just stretch and stay in that position on cold, inactive muscles. Make sure you are pressing through your glutes, that you are driving your heels into the ground, and that you're really recruiting these muscles and getting them involved in the stretch. That way the fascial lining of those muscles expand and they're able to bloom and create more range of motion. Alright, and I want to thank you guys again for checking out this training video on the squat. Just to kind of go over it again from your toes to your head. Try to keep your feet in alignment, pointing straight ahead when you're doing these deep squats. It is a tendency of ours to turn our toes out to make up for mobility issues that we have. But if you are looking to open up your mobility, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to open up your mobility, point those toes straight ahead, particularly if you're trying to stretch it out in the deep squat position and stay down there at the bottom. Now, if you are looking to recruit your glutes, you want those knees to turn out, and you can turn those toes out as well. While you're doing your working squat in repetitions, feel free to turn the toes out just a little bit. Just make sure those knees go past the angle of your toes. That way you can make sure you're recruiting that glute medius. And lastly, your spinal alignment. Your hips, as they drop down into the squat, is going to pull at the bottom of your squat. So that's going to give us a tendency to round our backs, push those shoulders back, and if you need to, a little bit more emphasis and you really want to stretch out and decompress your back, put your arms up over your head, even behind your ears, and clasp your fingers together. That way you can emphasize that decompression. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, any further comments or concerns, email me at joshua.james.cossidis@gmail.com. Otherwise, can't wait to see you at our next training video. Thank you. Take care.